Well, there you have it. Let's take this time now to pull all of this together and show you how it works. I've just introduced to you all of the 10 mindsets of a winner, and we've gone over each one of them individually and showed you how you can use these and actually implement them into your life. Let's review. The 10 mindsets of a winner. What these are, we started out by talking about famous people, or people who we deem as successful. Well, what makes them different? It's not necessarily their looks. We went through several different people. You can think of people out there that you see as famous, or they're doing something and they just seem to be having a good time. They seem to be in their element. They're not necessarily the most beautiful people on the planet, or even the most talented, but there's something about them that just separates them from everybody else. Well, what you're seeing here is where that magic is. They are doing these 10 things consistently, and that's what makes them who they are. So again, pick those people that you originally had talked about, and let's go through the list. Do they feel awesome about themselves? Do they take on sensible risks? Do they follow the instructions of their coaches? The answer to that's yes. Are they willing to look silly? Well, obviously, they were willing to get out in front of people and mess up, because that's what's made them who they are. They've overcome that fear of being seen and being ridiculed or judged or anything. And even then, many of them are still judged, but they still stay out there anyway and do their chosen profession. Are they willing to face the negative as well as the positive? Do they use the creativity of their imaginations? How many people do you see that are doing multiple careers within their careers? Or they'll do one thing and want to do something different. Or that particular part of their career comes to an end. So what do? Start something different, using all the resources that they've gathered up till that time so that they can turn around and do it again. They use their imaginations. Do they have a positive attitude about it? Yes, obviously. Or nothing would have happened to begin with. Do they have a great desire to learn? Yes. Do they learn from their failures quickly? Absolutely, or they wouldn't be there. And do they know their inherent value? Absolutely. So again, I always like to throw in the Ozzy Osbourne example. Is all he's doing are those 10 things consistently, and that's what makes him who he is. So let's talk about this here. Remember, as we first started this whole thing, I told you I would give you the keys to opening that chest that you see down there at the bottom. And if you remember, everything that you want is inside that chest. However, it had the big old lock on it, and you needed the keys. And for our example, the keys were up on top of Mount Everest, and we've had to take our journey. And there's a reason why I said early on, what if it took you a year to get up there and get those keys? Things will take time. Be patient with yourself. Let yourself develop. Start the process, and just know that if you just consistently work at it, it will come to you. These keys are powerful. They will help you unlock that. You have your keys now. And so what I invite you to do is go back through all of these 10 mindsets. Choose the ones right now that you're already doing. I'm pretty confident that you're already doing several of them right now. But then look at the ones where you may be holding yourself back, or ones that you may say, I still need a little bit more in this area or in that area. Well, how can you develop those things? Well, again, you can call me. We can do a one-on-one session, or you can listen to my podcasts and continue to, and you can even come into those podcasts via, you can type in your question, or you can call in, and we can answer them right there in front of everybody, because there's probably other people out there that are wanting the same question answered. So again, which ones are you looking at right now that you're already good at, and which ones are you not? And those are the ones that I highly recommend that you start working on, and you can overcome them. Or whether I should say this, you can implement that in your life, and it will sooner or later become habit. Remember the learning curve. Okay. Pretty soon you'll be able to do it without thinking about it. And that's when it gets fun. All right, folks. Well, again, if you have any questions, I'd love to hear about them. Because this here, the choice is yours. It starts with you. It ends with you. Take responsibility for your success. Stop blaming others that you think that they're in your way or whatever. We've all had challenges in life. We've all had things that we've needed to overcome. There's several things that I will share with you in my podcasts as well as some other things. But this here was one of the biggest things that really set me back. Prior to, and I know that picture's gross, but prior to 2008, it seemed like everything was going my way. I just knew I had life by the tail. It just seemed like everything I touched turned to gold. Had a phenomenal speaking career. I was doing contracts and being a consultant to many other programs and things, and I was just in my element. It just felt like everything was going my way. And then all of a sudden, I started to feel a little bit off. I started getting this big old heavy pain behind my eye, my left eye here. And it just kept getting more and more pressure on it. And I kept going to the doctor, and they just said, "Oh, there's nothing wrong. You're just stressed out." And my money situation was starting to tank as well. We no longer had the contract, one of the contracts that I had, and that was kind of devastating. And I just kept feeling worse and worse and worse and worse and couldn't figure it out. And then one day, back in November of 2008, as you see here, my oldest brother, passed away. And so as I was on my way down to California to attend his funeral, that pain in my head was so intense. And I just thought it was, again, because of all of the stress I had been under. And now with this passing away, of course, my heart was hurting. And I thought, maybe that's just what it is. Well, when I got back, I went to my doctor again. And I said, "Doctor, something's not right." And he just thought, "Well, let's do one more last thing here, Brad." It happened to be on a Friday afternoon. And he gave me a shot of something that was going to knock me out for the weekend, basically. And he said, "You just go home, clear your slate, don't do anything this weekend, and just rest. Just stay in bed and rest." Well, come Monday, it was even worse. And I went to him and said, I don't know what to do. And I was expecting him to give me another type of medication or something. But he says, "Brad, you need to go to the hospital." Well, that's not something I'd ever done before. So I was a little bit proud that was always something like, I've never been to the hospital. No, I have great health. And I had run several marathons and everything, like I say, everything seemed to be going my way. And then all of a sudden it wasn't. And so he just said, "Well, you need to go to the hospital." And he even went so far as to say, "If you don't go to the hospital right now, I will call the police and tell them that you're suicidal so that they'll make you go." And I said, "Okay, doctor, I'll do it." So I go in, and they started running all these tests on me, and all they did was find out that, as a matter of fact, the first doctor just said, "Brad, there's something up in your head, and we don't know what it is." So they sent me to another hospital by ambulance. And I got there as quick as I could. And when I really wasn't nervous about anything until I got to that second hospital. And when I walked in and they pulled me in immediately, even though there was over 100 people there in the emergency room, that's when I got scared. Because if they're taking me in front of all these other people, something was wrong. Well, it ended up being a brain abscess. And this was just 2 weeks after my brother's funeral. And what a brain abscess is I had an infection that got up in my brain, and it started growing, and it was actually pushing my brain forward. Well, after they determined that they were going to do surgery, when they said, "Oh, we're going to have to drill some holes in your head and everything," I was just like, no. I was just sick to my stomach. And but obviously I just needed to calm myself down and realize that this is just something that had to happen. Well, as you see in the picture there, they ended up having to cut the back of my head open and take a piece out of my skull to be able to drain the infection that was in there. It ended up being some type of a strep virus. Well, after I had come to, after I got out of anesthesia, the operation lasted around 4 hours, and I couldn't see. All I could see was all I had was just this big old blur. Obviously, I knew there were lights in the room. I could just see outlines of people, and I was just devastated. I'm like, what just happened? How do you go from everything going your way, or feeling like it anyway, and then all of a sudden, this? And I just came to the conclusion, and I'll say this with all sincerity, I just humbled myself enough and I just said, you know what, God's in charge. I had enough faith in my maker that I said, let's just see what happens. This had to be for a reason. Well, then later on, I couldn't, after I got out of the hospital, it was like 6 weeks later, I was getting all of these injections, and it was twice a day, heavy doses of antibiotics. And so I had to go to the hospital twice a day. Well, after about 6 weeks, this whole pain came back, and I wasn't able to even move my head without severe pain. And I went to the doctor, and the pain was so intense they couldn't even give me anything that would curtail that pain. And finally, they just ended up sedating me, if that's the word for it, and just making it to where I couldn't really feel anything. And that turned into spinal meningitis, which is that next month there in January. Well, if you've never had that, I don't wish that on my worst enemy. It is extremely painful. Anyway, after about 6 or 7 days of being in the hospital, it started to get a little bit better. And then with all the heavy antibiotics I was on, they were able to clear that infection that I had in my body. And I, without knowing at that time, the doctor told me after the fact that they couldn't believe that I'm even here. The toxins in my body were so intense that they didn't know if my body could fight it off. And so, but they just kept pumping me full of what they needed to, but my immune system just kept fighting back. And so they just said, Brad, it's a miracle that you're even here. We don't know if anybody could have even survived that. Well, later on, they couldn't find out where that infection came from. And I'll give you the short version on this. About a year later, I ended up having to have heart surgery because what they discovered was I had a big, huge hole in my heart. I had what's known as an ASD. The upper wall, the upper chamber of my heart, the wall between the two upper chambers was missing. And so they did this procedure on me, which helped replace that in there so that potentially that infection would never get back up in my brain again. Well, everything's been going great ever since. I have had to take it very easy because along the way, that was part of the thing. I just needed to rest my brain, rest everything. But that caused me to put on a lot of weight. So again, I still have my challenges out there, but guess what? I'm taking it head on. So anyway, I'm just telling you this for one reason and one reason only. Don't give up, no matter what happens. And when I had my 10-year checkup and I went into the doctor's office, I actually went in because I was feeling some pain up in my head again. Oh, I forgot to tell you this. After about 9 months, my vision came back. Okay, because for the longest time there, it was very bleak. As a matter of fact, the doctor told me I'd probably never get my sight back. But it came back one day. I woke up and it's like, I can see. And I told my wife I want to go driving, and she didn't believe me. So she still, for a while there, had to take me around. Anyway, a lot of fun, a lot of interesting stories with that whole thing. But just understand, don't ever give up, no matter what happens. After my 10-year checkup, the doctor he could not believe the progress that I'd been made, but it's just been truly a miracle. My brain has actually been healing. I've had to step away from the public life and getting out of speaking because with what happened in my brain caused what I'm going through right now, where I'm having the stuttering and everything, and it was just really bad. I couldn't put a lot of thought into it or even bring out full sentences. But guess what? I'm not going to let that stop me. I'm here. I want to deliver this message of hope to you and confirm to you that if you do these things that I'm talking about right here, you can have all the success that you would ever want. So guys, how do you find out more about us? This is us. Look at our website at resiliencetalknetwork.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and any other social media platform. Also, we do live Monday through Friday podcasts that you can get on. You can ask questions. We're truly building what we call the Resilience Resource Community. And please join that. What we're doing is putting together a community where people can get the help that they need. Right now in our world, I know it's very confusing. There's so many things out there, and it's hard to know who's telling you the truth from time to time. And all of us at one point in our life will need help in various capacities. And that's my goal, is to bring you the help that you need in an honest way, something that you can know for a surety that you're being steered in the right direction. I've been through a lot of things. I've been in the mental health business for over 30 years. Recently retired from that because of stress and a few other things. However, here I am. I'm back in the saddle and I'm ready to do some wonderful things. So this is Ultimate Self-Worth 1. Congratulations, you've been through it. There'll be more coming out. Be sure and keep checking out our website for more positive things to come. And this here I'm excited about. It's called Join the Resilience. We actually have some t-shirts and things like that about joining our community here. Again, get on Facebook, Resilience Resource Community, and learn all about it. If you have any questions, give us a call. Check on the links below. Get up with us any way you want. Don't live your life in darkness. There's plenty of help out there. People need people, and we're trying to create a community. Not trying, we're doing it. We're creating a community of people who care and actually want to do a lot of good in the world. Please join us.